Welcome to Beyond the Buzz, where curiosity meets clarity. I'm Dr. Tara Moros, scientist and communicator with decades of experience translating complex human research into clear, evidence-informed insight. If you're new here, each week we explore body, mind, tech, and culture trends, especially when science and influence collide, to clarify what the strongest evidence actually supports. And today is a bit different, stepping back after the first 24 to look at what actually holds up across them. We're surrounded by trends that sound scientific, feel persuasive, and spread quickly. But something doesn't quite add up. Over the past 24 episodes, we've covered a wide range of health and wellness ideas. Some promise precision, like genetic-based diets or continuous glucose monitoring. Others promise control, like digital detoxes, self-care strategies, or tracking your sleep and activity. Some focus on biology, like the microbiome, cortisol, or GLP-1 medications. Others are shaped by culture and expectations, like influencer advice, money and well-being, or what's considered normal in sexual health. And many sit right at the intersection, where visibility, marketing, and science overlap, like cold plunging, red light therapy, detox cleanses, seed oils, and peptides. We've also looked at how information spreads through AI-generated health content, mental health chatbots, and clinical research. And across all of these, something interesting starts to show up, especially when something feels convincing before it's fully supported. Because in every episode, we've been asking one question: does this work? But today, we're asking something more useful. What actually holds up and what's worth it? Because when you look at any one trend on its own, it's easy to get pulled into the details. A study shows benefit. A headline makes a claim. A story makes it feel convincing. But across episodes, a different pattern starts to show up. Most things don't fall into works or doesn't work. They fall somewhere in between. And the question shifts from, does this work, to, is this worth it, for most people, most of the time? When you step back, a few patterns show up again and again. First, most trends contain some signal, but effects are usually small. Genetic-based diets lead to small, inconsistent changes. Wearables can increase awareness or activity, but the effects are often modest and don't last. Digital detoxes can help, but effects are usually small and depend heavily on how changes are applied and sustained. And with peptides, aside from collagen, most are not well studied in humans, are often unregulated, and may carry unknown risks. Even with collagen, evidence suggests small, specific benefits under specific conditions, not broad or transformative effects. Large, consistent effects are uncommon. Second, more data doesn't reliably change outcomes. Glucose monitoring can give detailed insight, but hasn't been shown to consistently improve long-term outcomes in people without diabetes. Wearables can track more, but behavior change is often short-term. Sleep tracking can increase awareness, but doesn't consistently improve sleep and for some people can increase anxiety about sleep. More information can help you see more. It doesn't reliably change what happens next. Third, context matters as much as, or more than, the tool. Self-care can support well-being, but it's unlikely to resolve burnout without changes in workload, control, or environment. Digital detoxes depend on what they replace and whether changes are realistic and sustainable. And when it comes to deciding whether to participate in clinical trials, people don't decide based on evidence alone. They weigh trust, clear information, practical demands, potential personal benefit, and contributing to science or future patients. The same approach can lead to very different outcomes depending on the context around it. Fourth, simple rules are often more confident than the evidence. Detox cleanses sound compelling, but the body already has effective systems for processing and eliminating toxins. And there's little evidence that commercial products enhance these processes in healthy people. Sexual frequency is often treated as a measure of whether a sex life is normal. But satisfaction depends more on alignment and expectations than a specific number. And seed oils are often portrayed as harmful. But replacing saturated fats with unsaturated fats, including those commonly referred to as seed oils, is consistently associated with improved cardiovascular outcomes. Simple rules feel clear, but they often leave out what matters most. Fifth, some effects are real, but often misunderstood. Placebo effects are real, but they tend to be modest for biological outcomes, and larger and more consistent for self-reported symptoms like pain or well-being. GLP-1 medications have meaningful effects during use, but weight regain is common after stopping, reflecting both underlying biology and the challenge of sustaining behavior change over time. Cortisol matters, but strong weight effects are seen in rare conditions with chronically high cortisol, not typical everyday stress. Real effects don't always mean the outcome people expect. Sixth, the biggest effects are often the least visible. Daily movement, especially increasing activity from lower levels, shows consistent and meaningful health benefits. Basic behaviors done consistently over time show up again and again, but they're rarely what gets attention. And finally, sometimes the pattern is how we think, not just what we do. We're drawn to certainty, even when the evidence is mixed. AI-generated health information can sound confident, regardless of accuracy. And influencer advice often reflects what is visible and relatable, not necessarily what is most supported by evidence. What feels convincing isn't always what holds up. Across body, mind, tech, and culture trends, the same pattern holds. Most ideas aren't entirely right or wrong. They sit somewhere in between, with effects that are real, but often small, variable, and dependent on context. But the way they're presented often suggests something stronger, simpler, or more certain. That gap is where confusion starts. So what's the takeaway? Most trends aren't wrong. They're just not worth it. Most trends contain some signal, but very few are worth significant time, money, or attention for most people. Some provide insight, some help in specific situations. Some are still evolving, but very few deliver large, consistent, real-world impact. Strong claims are easy to find. Strong evidence is harder. So the question isn't just, does this work? It's, is this actually worth it for me? Because clarity doesn't come from chasing every new idea. It comes from understanding what actually holds up. Something to reflect on. When something sounds compelling, are you responding to the evidence or the way it's presented? If this episode helped you think differently about trends, follow Beyond the Buzz. Each week, we take one body, mind, tech, or culture trend and look at what the evidence actually shows, what holds up, what doesn't, and why the trend resonates. You can explore the full transcript, the clarity poll, and the episode links in the evidence edit. Until next time, stay curious and stay kind to your mind. This is Beyond the Buzz, cutting through the hype because evidence is empowering.